If you are lacking self-awareness, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about what self-awareness is and 3 key things that you need in order to improve your self-awareness. Now, some of you may know of the smart individual Daniel Goleman, who popularized emotional intelligence back in the early 90s. And the first component of emotional intelligence was self-awareness. Now, some people may ask you, how do you improve as a leader? Okay. And before I even answer that question, comment below and let me know what you think is crucial for improving your leadership skills. Anyway, as we continue, it's important to understand that self-awareness is the first step, or first component at least, of emotional intelligence. What follows on from that is self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills, okay? These are all core components of emotional intelligence, but at the pinnacle, at the beginning of it is self-awareness, okay? Now, what is self-awareness? There have been numerous and various studies on self-awareness and understanding what it truly is. And the Harvard Business Review does a really good job of breaking down what self-awareness is. And I know in one of their studies, they surveyed over 800 individuals to really understand the crux of self-awareness. So I'm going to be referring to this Harvard Business Review so that you can gain some insights. Now, the first core fundamental thing that they got from this review is that there are 2 types of self-awareness: internal and external. Now, with internal self-awareness, this is more about understanding yourself, okay? This is understanding your values, your beliefs, your habits, why you do the things that you do. So it's having an intimate understanding of self, whatever self is. Now, that's a whole different conversation in itself, really identifying what self is. Is self a thing in of itself, or is it a collection of our concepts and ideas that make up this identity that we establish? And so internal self-awareness has an intimate relationship with understanding who we are as individuals. External self-awareness relies on the feedback of other people. Okay, this is where you ask people questions in order to understand yourself better. Perfect examples of this are appraisals, 360 surveys or reports, the Johari window, which I've spoken about before in the past, or just general conversation or chit chat with people. Now, obviously, if you do this in a constructive way, then you can crystallize an idea of self perceived by other people. And so if we think about having a high degree of self-awareness in terms of the internal form, then what happens is that you end up having a level of introspection. So let's say, for example, you have high internal and you have low external, okay? You start to introspect, and introspection can be good to a degree because you can still understand self, but you may be so biased and so caught up in your ways that you don't want to really understand what other people are saying. Okay, what if you were in a situation where you had high external and you had low internal forms of self-awareness? Well, you may be in a position where you people please all the time, okay, because you know how people are going to respond and react based on certain things that they've said to you, so you act in that way, okay? What if you have low internal self-awareness or low forms of external self-awareness? Well, what ends up happening is that you're seeking out to better understand yourself. You may even be frustrated in terms of understanding why things are not working out for you. So that's where you try to go out and, do the things required to improve. And then you may have high external and high internal. And this is the place that we're all trying to get to. This is where you truly understand self in the right balanced way and you create a space for growth. And so that's the first thing to understand. Really diagnose for yourself what types of internal and external forms of self-awareness that you have and work on improving those different bits as well. This could be through feedback. This could be through understanding things for yourself, but it's really important to get some form of feedback in some way to start to understand your identity, so to speak. What are your beliefs? What are your habits? Why do you do the things that you do? So that's the first stage. The second thing that this study realized, which will help you as well, is that experience and power hinders self-awareness. What does this mean? sometimes if we are good at something, okay, or we're in an assumed position, or we've done something for a long time, we just believe that that's how it's supposed to be. Like, why would you be challenged? Why wouldn't it be any other way? You've been in that position and had that experience for so long that you lose yourself and you don't keep track of what enables you to be an effective team player or leader or performer or whatever it may be. And so studies have shown that leaders who are more connected with their staff and see themselves as employees as well, not just leaders, have a better relationship with their staff, but also have room for personal growth as well. They're normally badged as great leaders because people can see that they are also common folk. Like, they bleed, they use the loo, they do all these different things that normal people do. But those people who have acclimatized power, those people who have experience, they sometimes or usually overinflate their ability or skills to do something. And so what I'm saying to you as a leader or developing leader or someone who has something in mind, again, it comes back to that feedback. Speak to people on the level. Check how, you speak and present yourself to different people. I said self-awareness is the beginning of emotional intelligence, but proceeding that, should I say, is self-regulation. How do you use that information to then manage yourself and how you respond? How do you then use that information to be driven and motivate yourself? We spoke about drive before in a previous video, where they said that drive is made up of mastery, autonomy, and purpose. Okay, those three things will help you. And this is where self-awareness will embed and improve your sense of motivation. When thinking about social skills, okay, really this means your leadership, your negotiation, your conflict management, your relationship management, all of these different things, engagement. So really think to yourself, am I in a position of power or experience that is inhibiting my ability to understand self better? Okay. Do I just not want to listen to people because, I've been there, done that, so to speak? So that's the second thing. The third thing is introspection doesn't always improve self-awareness. And what this really means is that sometimes you can, we talk about people being in themselves, and we stereotypically attribute this to introverts, although that's not always necessarily true. That speaks more to energy. But introspection is reflecting inwardly. And usually when we do this as human beings, we start to ask the question why, okay? Simon Sinek talks about asking the question why in the right way, okay? There's a relevance there. When asking why in relation to your sense of purpose and direction, powerful, moving, motivating. But usually what most human beings do is ask why and associating it with negative connotations. Why did you do that? Why does this have to happen to me? Why does this always happen? There's a negative twinge or tone to it. And so, again, why connects to the emotional centers within our brain, okay, as highlighted within that Simon Sinek model. But quite interestingly enough, if someone asks you, why did you do that? You can respond with, what would be the best way to respond in order to improve my performance? Or what would you suggest I do instead? Or what ways would you move in relation to this goal or whatever it may be? So asking what objectifies the situation and aims to remove emotion from it. Now, of course, this insinuates that you're not saying it with a certain tone and you're of a relaxed state. But generally speaking, when we say what, okay, and not what on its own, but in a sentence, at the beginning of a sentence, then you start to objectify the solution potentially, or the way you approach the situation. And so really key things to understand when it comes to understanding self-awareness. So really to recap, the first thing is to understand that, well, number one, self-awareness is the beginning of emotional intelligence, the first sort of component. And therefore, if you don't have the right level of self-awareness, then as a leader, it's hard for you to grow. Okay, it's hard for you to grow in anything. The second thing is to say that there are two types of self-awareness, internal and external, and both required for growth in the future. And you can use feedback to yourself and from others to improve these different forms. The third thing to say is that experience and power can hinder your ability to be self-aware because you take things for granted. And the fourth thing is to say that it is extremely important to make sure that you don't just focus on introspection, but you use things like what in the sentence as opposed to why when it comes to reflecting upon something. So hopefully that helps you. Hopefully this gives you something to move forward with. If you want to really improve your high performance, then make sure to click the video below. This is a past event that I did that really explains how to become a high performing individual, whether that's within the workplace or at home. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.